From the Mapleview Animal Hospital studios, this is the WHTC Morning News with Gary Stevens and Peg McNichol on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And welcome back to the WHTC Morning News for this Tuesday, August 25th. Tuesday mornings, we have the opportunity to chat with one of the two men who represent the Lakeshore in the halls of Congress directly. Of course, we do have two state senators who represent the entire state in Congress, but the men who represent them in the State House, one on Thursdays, we chat with Bill Huizenga of Zeeland, the other on Tuesdays with Fred Upton of St. Joseph. He joins us from his base of operations via the Zoom connection. Fred, good morning and welcome back to WHTC.
Well, good morning. We're actually getting a little rain right now in St. Joe. Welcome rain. I was at a big Farm Bureau dinner last night. Our farmers maybe never happy, but they're looking for rain after a couple of weeks, not only for the corn but also for the blueberries. So this is hopefully it's going to last a little bit. We'll see.
Speaking about agriculture, U.S. Ag Secretary Senator Perdue went throughout the Lakeshore, meeting first up here in West Olive with Bill Huizenga and then with you at Loaves and Fishes down in Kalamazoo. Besides talking about some of the things that the administration is doing, what other things did you get from your chats and from Secretary Perdue over this past weekend?
Well, a couple things. First of all, we had a little bit of a roundtable with some of our leading farmers and growers, letting him know firsthand how things are going here. Second, Loaves and Fishes in Kalamazoo has really been an outstanding major food bank operation, supplying really multiple outlets throughout our corner of the state. And of course, there's been a $3 billion program that allows them to get food directly from the farmers, fresh vegetables, fruit, that type of thing. So that's a welcome addition to those that are needy. But we also had a chance to talk a little bit about the school nutrition program. And of course, knowing that our schools are going to be going on somewhat of a virtual e-learning for many of them a couple days a week, perhaps, that impacts the count that the state requires for the distribution of food, the school lunch program. And without those kids in school, that lessens then the eligibility dollars that flow back to the school. There's a waiver through the end of September, but that expires at the end of September. I'm looking to continuing that, knowing that in fact the COVID crisis is not going to be over by the end of September. Let's face it, we all wanted it over by Easter, but that just didn't happen. So I'm going to be working with Senator Cornyn, who's the lead Republican in the Senate, on this. In fact, we have a conversation a little bit later on today to see if we can't extend that and work with USDA as well as our school officials to make sure that our kids, particularly those that are needy, really don't lose that nutrition.
We're talking with Congressman Fred Upton on the WHTC Morning News. Talk a little bit about the Dr. Lorna Breen Healthcare Provider Protection Act. It is something that, let's just say, deals with one of the byproducts of what we are going through right now with the outbreak, and that is the mental health of healthcare professionals.
Well, that's right. Whether it be our nurses, whether it be our doctors, those that even intake folks in our hospitals and nursing homes, there is a real mental anguish as they see person after person. I know in Berrien County, we've got over 1,500 positive cases. Of course, in Michigan, close to 100,000 now, close to 6,500 deaths. But that day-to-day trauma by our healthcare workers is really telling. And unfortunately, we've had some prominent suicides and other folks that are they're not able to understandably take that pressure. This is bipartisan legislation. Many of us in the Problem Solvers Caucus are on board trying to get more money to identify those mental health needs. We've seen stories on the national news of physicians that are going in day after day after day with no break, feeling that it is their absolute duty to take care of these folks who are in so much pain, and they themselves, it takes a toll on them itself. So this is to identify some of that, to try and help out, and obviously named after an individual who, in fact, as I understand it, took her own life.
Yeah, it's the cost, unfortunately, of trying to save lives. Yes, we're saving lives in one sense, and we're losing it in other senses as well. And we can talk about the aspects of that as we go along. A couple of things I do want to touch base with you on. First of all, the decision on Saturday with the U.S. House to pass the Delivering for America Act. You sided with majority Democrats in supporting it. Your colleague up here in the Zeeland area, Bill Huizinga, voted no. He's gotten some flack. What about your response? You voted for it, and maybe you've gotten some flack as well.
Well, a couple of things. I think all of us have noticed a slower delivery than normal. Bills, checks not clearing nearly as fast. Some letters not arriving at all. Heard from a lot of constituents as they mailed their checks to the IRS that were due back in July 15th. Some have still not even gotten there. In fact, on my website last night, on my kitchen table, I put out a report by the IRS acknowledging that, in fact, there are real issues with the receipt of some of those tax payments. I've talked to postal workers throughout my district, and I visited my largest facility in Kalamazoo this last week. Virtually nobody was there. It was an empty post office with the exception of the postmaster and an individual from Lansing and Grand Rapids that came down and the postal clerk selling stamps. That was it in a really large facility. And of course, to see the reports of sorting machines that have been disassembled, in essence thrown in the dumpster. I think they're going to Padnos, a pretty good scrap metal dealer. They're not going to come back. And there were reports of additional sorting machines that were going to be closed in West Michigan as well. These are machines that literally sort hundreds of thousands of pieces of mail per hour that we're not going to see. And in fact, the postal department actually came out with a study over this last week indicating that, in fact, at least 10% slowdowns in the satisfaction of the mail. So I signed a letter with a number of Republicans last spring in May. The Postal Governor's Board actually recommended a $25 billion infusion because of what's happened with COVID. I signed a letter asking our leadership and the administration to do that. My sense is that when we do the next COVID package, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, aid to the cities and educators, et cetera, I think you'll see money for the post office. It may not be as much as 25 billion was what the number was. And we were unable to offer any amendments on Saturday, but I think there's going to be substantial sums to make sure that our postal, it's in the Constitution. First-class service is first-class service. It doesn't need to be 5, 8, 10, even 20 days. We had one veteran who reached out to us. Their heart medication was sent on August 4th. It still hadn't been received at their house 2.5 weeks later. Those are the delays that I was hearing from literally hundreds of people in Southwest Michigan. And I felt that it was important that we maintain that service, something that Ben Franklin, he was our first Postmaster General. It's in the Constitution. We need to make sure that it's efficient, and that's why I voted for it. And it passed by more than 100 votes in the House.
But yet it's going to probably die in the Senate even before it has a chance to go to the White House. So, is it more symbolic than anything else?
Well, but it sends the signal that when you have a vote that passes by over 100 votes, it sends the signal to the administration as well as to the Senate saying, you know what, there is something here. And I think had it been close, it would have been different. But by 100 votes, my sense is that you will see money that's in this next COVID package because of what the House did on Saturday.
One other thing, and then I'll let you go, Fred. And this stems from a CBS News poll. They have taken, and I'll just read from what they say. As we head into a Republican convention, it will feature the president taking center stage throughout the week. Donald Trump will be addressing a political party that is very much his own. The vast majority of Republicans think Donald Trump exemplifies Republican values, and they would prefer Republican candidates who would support his agenda, not be independent from him. In fact, more Republicans say that being a Trump supporter is very important to their political identity than, say, being a Republican is. In fact, according to this poll, 7 in 10 say they want to vote for Republican candidates for Congress to do what Trump wants rather than be independent. I bring that up to you, Fred, because you made some national news a few years ago when on this particular program you said, I'm going to stay in my lane and work on my reelection. Some might say you're not really on the Trump campaign. Others might say you're still in the Trump campaign because you have an R next to your name. Your thoughts about maybe trying to be an independent thinking Republican in an era where maybe more Republican people want their people to follow the leader, and the leader is Donald John Trump.
Well, back in 2016, I had never even been in the same room with Donald Trump, let alone had a conversation. And as I have been in Congress a number of years now, I've had a strong record of both agreeing and disagreeing with any president, whether they be Republican or Democrat. And I chaired the Energy and Commerce Committee under President Obama. He actually signed more than 200 bills that we moved through the committee and through the Senate, including 21st Century Cures, my landmark legislation. So as we look at these last 4 years now, again, my sense is that most of my constituents, they don't care really if you have an R or D next to your name. They want the job done. They want you to listen. They want you to work with both sides, and they want the country to move forward. And that's, of course, what the problem solvers have done. We ended up, the president called the problem solvers caucus, leaders of it, into the Situation Room when we had the 35-day shutdown, and asked the question, what can we do to get this country moving again? It was us that moved forward. The president, rightly so, wagged his finger at the Congress and said, on immigration, do something. Send me a bill that I can sign. And in fact, we, the problem solvers, again, moved a bill passed by nearly 100 votes last year. Senate didn't take it up. That's not our. I wish they would move, but they didn't do that. The president again called us into the Oval Office or into the Situation Room relating to COVID. What can we do? Let's find a cure. Let's find a vaccine. We're the ones that are actually leading now. As talks have broken down between the Republican and Democratic leaders, House and Senate. We're the ones that even last night had an extensive conference call, bipartisan, to put forth a framework that we think can move forward. That's what the country wants. They're tired of this fighting. They're tired of the sniping. And my record, I'm not afraid to support President Trump on a good number of issues, and moving our country forward, fiscal issues, a whole number of different things. You've never seen him tweet against me, even though I've said he ought to drop that phone in a bucket of water every now and then, and stop some of those things. So people know who I am, what I'm about, and move forward on that.
He is Fred Upton, the U.S. House Representative from St. Joseph. He chats with us Tuesday mornings on the WHTC Morning News. Fred, if all goes well, let's do this again next Tuesday morning. Thank you for your time today.
Look forward to it.
Thank you very much. That's Fred Upton on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.